York is rich with history and is home to many museums, one being the National Railway Museum. Join us now as we take a look at the amazing collection of trains on display. The museum tells the story of rail transport in Britain and its impact on society. It is the home of the national collection of historically significant railway vehicles such as the Mallard, Stirling Single, Duchess of Hamilton and Japanese bullet train. The museum was opened by Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh in 1975. The opening coincided with the 150th anniversary celebrations of the opening of the Stockton and Darling Railway, for which several working exhibits were provided. The new museum received over 1 million visitors in its first year and was favourably received by critics. The National Railway Museum has over 6,000 objects on display, of which around 100 are locomotives or rolling stock, which tells the story of Britain's railway innovation. The train we're looking at now is the Evening Star, which was the last steam locomotive built for British Railways at the works in Swindon. The name was chosen through a competition for workers. Although a heavy freight locomotive, Evening Star was painted in full green livery, normally applied to express passenger engines rather than the normal plain black. It was also given the Great Western Railway style copper cap to its chimney, yet Evening Star only worked for about 5 years, and by 1968 all of British Rail's mainline steam locomotives had been replaced by diesel or electric vehicles. The Class 20 diesel-electric locomotive was the first mainline diesel rolled out following British Railways' 1955 modernisation plan. Designed for freight, the Class 20s continued to pull their weight when competition from road haulage left some other small locomotives idle. Their success was due to teamwork. Class 20s could be coupled together to pull heavier loads along poor track and spent much of their working life coupled nose to nose. There are still some in service today. The 82 Box Hill was built at Brighton in 1880 and is the only member of the A1 class preserved in Britain, as all the others were later rebuilt as Class A1X locomotives. It does, however, have a Drummond-style chimney rather than the original one. It cost £1,875 to build. It spent many years to service stock at Brighton as a shunter at the Locomotive Works, where it carried the number 380S. It is known to have been stored in the engine shed at Salisbury, where it was seen in the mid-1950s. The KF Class No. 7 was built in Britain for export throughout the world. Many of these locomotives were bigger than those used in Britain. This one was built for use in China by Vulcan Foundry of Newton Le Willows in Lancashire and was in use for approximately 50 years. It was donated to the museum by the Chinese government in 1983. Before 1994, crossing the English Channel involved travelling by plane or boat. The Channel Tunnel physically connected Britain's railway to the continent for the first time and brought to fruition an idea that had been around at least since the time of Napoleon. The project also led eventually to the opening of Britain's first dedicated high-speed line, the Channel Tunnel Rail Link, or High Speed 1. This Hunslet locomotive was used in the tunnel's construction, pulling milk trucks which removed the spoil. London St Pancras International Station opened in 2007. The grand refurbished Victorian terminus connects Britain with Europe. It is only 2 hours 15 minutes to Paris by Eurostar. The 68 miles of new railway to the Channel Tunnel is High Speed 1, Britain's first new main line in a century, and the first design for truly high-speed travel. Eurostar services have a maximum speed of 186 miles per hour. What we're looking at now is the Shinkansen bullet train. For many years, engineers tried to develop faster trains for existing routes, but Japan took a radical new approach. In 1964, the Shinkansen, or bullet train, had its own purpose-built lines. Initially, trains reached 130 miles per hour, and speeds have progressively increased. High-speed lines have since been widely adopted elsewhere. This vehicle is from the original Series 0 design. It was donated to the museum by the West Japan Railway Company in 2001. D-Class No. 737 was built in 1901. The South Eastern and Chapman Railway D-Class locomotives were built to haul passenger trains and ran until the 1950s. The railway travelled to ports like Dover and Folkestone, which linked Britain to France and Belgium, and ran special boat trains, which connected directly with ferry services. In 1981, this locomotive played a starring role in the Oscar-winning film Chariots of Fire. The H. Noria is one of the world's oldest locomotives. H. Noria is a close relative of the first locomotive to run in the USA, the Stourbridge Lion of 1828. The company of Foster Ranstrick built only 4 locomotives, and 3 went to the Delaware and Hudson Canal Company. The remaining one was Agenoria, which takes its name from the Roman goddess. It was supplied to Staffordshire Shut End Colliery, where it pulled coal wagons for 35 years. As car ownership increased, British Rail needed something to attract passengers. The answer was the high-speed train, also known as the Intercity 125, due to its top speed of 125 miles per hour. With a diesel-powered engine, the HST did not need expensive electrification at the time of little support for the railways. This locomotive is named after its designer, Sir Kenneth Grenge, who streamlined its look and designed its iconic wedge-shaped nose. The Coronation-class locomotives, like this one, the Duchess of Hamilton, were designed by the London, Midland and Scottish Railway for power. They had large boilers and streamlined steam and exhaust passengers, giving them the ability to cope with steep hills on the west coast route between London and Glasgow. The Duchess of Hamilton was exhibited at the 1939 New York World Fair as the best example of British engineering and style. The Duchess's streamlined casting reflected the modern, elegant, popular look of the 1930s. The design increased aerodynamic performance, but added weight and made it difficult to access the engine for maintenance, so it was removed in 1948. The Friends of the National Railway Museum financed Duchess of Hamilton's return to steam from 1980 to 1996, as well as restoring of the streamlined casting in 2009. The Mallard is officially the world's fastest steam locomotive, one of Sir Nigel Gresley's famous A4 engines. It reached over 125 miles per hour while pulling a test train on the 3rd of July 1938. The record was achieved on a stretch of line known as Stoke Bank, near Grantham. Gresley was friendly with Ercot Bugatti, the famous car designer who also designed streamlined rail cars. It is said that these inspired the curving A4 shape. The Lodestar was the peak of George Churchward's design career, combining all his experimentation and research into cutting-edge locomotive. One of the set standard by GWR locomotive design for the next 20 years. Iconically, after his retirement, Churchward was killed by a Castle-class locomotive, the next setup from the Star class, when inspecting the railway line near his home in Swindon. In the 1930s, the London and North Eastern Railway pioneered in-carriage, fast-paced catering to attract passengers to their services. The Flying Scotsman service between London and Edinburgh often included a buffet carriage like this one. These carriages proved popular for their convenience, and whether first-class dining or snacks from a trolley, onboard catering has continued to be a staple of passenger service ever since. The National Railway Museum has so much more than what has featured in this video. Its layout gives you an opportunity to get up close to the locomotives, where you can see into the mechanics of the engines. There is so much to see that it is easy to spend hours exploring each train in turn, each of which are uniquely different from the other. The National Railway Museum is a paradise to any train enthusiast, and a must visit when in York. It is free to enter, though it gives you plenty of opportunity to donate, something I highly recommend you do.